welcome to our first speaker of the day, Catherine Watkins.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Oh, it's always such an honour to be here. I started my journey. Does this sound okay? No, it's a bit tinny. Shall I carry on anyway? Yeah, so as I was saying, it's always a real honour for me to be here. It feels quite emotional. I started my own coaching journey. I've run this business as it is now for 6 years, but 7 years since I qualified as a coach from Animas. Without a clue what I was going to do with it, this big fog of confusion in front of me, a total lack of faith that anybody would want to pay me for what I do, and you know, all of the confusion that I know some of you probably either are feeling now or felt when you started out. So it always really means a lot to me to sort of come back to this family. So I'm really, Nick, thank you for inviting me. Yeah, as Robert said, I'm Catherine Watkin. My business is called Selling from the Heart, and I work with small business owners who are struggling to get clients because the whole of the sales and marketing thing is just so confusing. And I help them to get their clients, but in ways that feel totally in alignment with their values. So no hypey marketing, no pushy sales tactics. And actually, what I'm going to be talking about today is a little bit different because Nick asked me to come and speak about the journey of running a business with authenticity. And one of the reasons is because I've made some quite big changes in my own business recently, and Nick thought it might be inspiring for you to hear not just where I sort of started from, but where I got to, and then how that didn't actually feel true for me once I'd got there, and the changes that I have then made. So he's also given me what feels like an impossible task, because he's asked me to speak for 25 minutes. And I don't know how to do that. So I'm going to do my very best. So if I go back to the very beginning, I started training at what was the Smart School, Animas, in about October 2010. I was already running a business. I'd done my NLP and hypnotherapy qualifications, and I was trying to run a business as a coach, but I actually didn't have some of the basic coaching skills. So I was already trying to get clients. I then qualified with Animas early 2011 and had a really confusing sort of 9 months. I was putting myself under a lot of pressure to try and figure out what my niche was. I had the sales background because my background is in sales, but I didn't have the marketing piece. All of that was something that I learned from the beginning. But finally, and it was a journey, and I think that's one thing I'd want to encourage you all to see. If you are at the beginning of your coaching journey and at the beginning of creating a business, understand that it is a journey. You're not going to suddenly know what you don't know overnight. You're not suddenly going to have a really successful, thriving business or practice within just a few months. Yes, some people might take off very quickly, but they might have particular assets already, like particular contacts already. So know that it is a journey, and it was a journey for me. And then this particular business, the penny dropped for me in sort of late 2011, that actually part of my actual gift was something I'd been trying to get away from, which was that I'm able to sell, and I have a very strong sales background and sales career, which I won't go into now, but I knew how to have sales conversations. I knew how to inspire people to want to take action to make change in their life. And I realized that this was something that so many of the coaches I trained with were actually lacking. And actually it was Animas that, I don't know if Nick even remembers, but it was Animas that gave me the first start, because Nick actually helped me run a one-day workshop to teach coaches how to sell. We called it Sales Success for Coaches. We had 13 people. I made practically no money, and that was the day the whole thing was born. So then fast forward to, I've got my little clock with me, so I'm keeping a close eye on my timing. If I then fast forward from all of that confusion, and actually that first workshop, 13 people, I then went on, it took me quite a while to figure out how my business was going to work, and it was another sort of probably 8 or 9 months before I took that workshop and I turned it into an online program. The online program is something that I run every single year now, and actually there's quite a few Animas students who've just joined me for this year. So where are you? Do you want to say hello if there's any here? Who's in the program? One over there, another one. Great. So if you have, make sure you come and say hello to me today so that I've met you face to face before we start work. I'll be around until about 4 o'clock today, so come and catch me in the breaks. So I started out with the same sort of fog and confusion that most of you are going to be starting out in, because now you've got your coaching qualification, you've also got your background, you've got a whole wealth of skills and experience from the life you've had before you became a coach. But many of you will have had no exposure at all to either sales or marketing. So there is this wall of fog in front of you, and that was exactly where I was. Fast forward to December 2016, when I'd been running the business for 5 years, and I had a dream business. I still have a dream business, but I had a dream business. If we go back a year ago, I had a system that worked. So the way my business worked was that I'd build relationships, I would have joint venture partners, I would do online marketing, I did my blogging, and all of this activity led me to be running webinars regularly and doing speaking gigs regularly. And every single year, at this time of year, I would fill my online program called Get More Clients Saying Yes, where I teach small business owners how to get more clients in ways that feel authentic and comfortable. From that, I would run a one-day, and I would have it varied, but I've had anything between sort of 50 to 65 people typically each year going through that. Then I would run a one-day live event like this at the end of November, and at that one-day live event, I would sell the next stage of the journey to the people who wanted to do more work with me. And this was a £5,000 level mentoring program where I supported small business owners over a 12-month period, much more in-depth around how to get their businesses working, attract clients, and all sorts of other things. And I did this every year for 4 years. It was a system, it worked. I knew that when I turned up in September and I reached out to my joint venture partners and I did my marketing and I ran my webinars, I would get my 50 to 65 people into my program. I knew that I would get 80 people to 90 people at my live event because I had done for 3 or 4 years. I knew that as long as I got 80 people into that live event, I would have 20 people in that mentoring program. And I had this business. Can you see how beautifully it worked? It had gone from confusion to being a system. And the turnover of the business was around about 150,000. It stayed fairly consistent for 4 years. It didn't really change much. It was all within that 150 to 160,000. So I had this dream business, and there was a part of me that was just so excited. I still, even after 4 years, I couldn't believe that I had been able to create this business. My ego was having a great old time because, I was a leader in my field. I was filling mentoring programs of 20 people at £5,000, which is not particularly easy to do. The people who did those programs were delighted. In 4 years, I didn't ever have anyone who was unhappy or complained or wanted their money back. The problem was this dream business was somebody else's dream business. It wasn't my dream business. And it took me a really, really long time to see that. And what had happened for me was that when I had started out in business and I didn't know what I didn't know, I had started to work with business mentors, really, really good business mentors who could see what I needed to do to take my business to a good level. But what I didn't realize I'd done was that I had ended up falling into following and working with particular business mentors who followed particular business models. And this is one thing I would really love you to take away from this today, from me and from the other speakers, is, as Robert's already said, there are so many different ways to grow your business. But my business mentors and the people who I was following said to me consistently, if you want your business to work and you want to make money from this business, you have to have the low-end program and then you have to have the high-end program, because the high-end program is where all the money is. And they were right in a way, because this business worked and it was a system, and I could have gone on like that year on year on year. But there was a part of me where it started to feel really heavy, because there was a really big part of me that was not fulfilled by what I was doing, because I was making this really profound transformational difference to 20 women a year in this 12-month program. They were changing beyond all recognition in terms of their level of confidence and the way their businesses looked. But it was 20 women a year. And as it turns out, I'm not put on the planet to help 20 women a year. I'm put on the planet to help thousands of women a year. And every year running that program, I would find that I had this huge calling to get my online program out to more and more people, because it's It's a very low, it's a low price point. It's £500. It's over 8 weeks. It really transforms businesses. And every year went by, year after year, I would find that I didn't have time to do anything to grow that business because I was so busy doing the marketing and then the delivery of that higher end program. And by the end of 2016, I actually felt quite trapped in this business. It started to feel like I'd just created myself a job. I would get up every morning, there were things in my diary all day, there would be things in my calendar all week, my mentoring calls, my clients. I loved my clients with a passion. Like I said, there was still a part of me that couldn't believe that I was lucky enough to have a business like this. But the part of me that felt there was something else I was supposed to be doing was really felt trapped, and there was this heaviness. I started to feel very tired, very exhausted. I kept telling myself I love my work, but I'd lost that passion for the future. And this is one thing I find that really carries us forward in business. Yes, we can have the business that we love right now today, but for me, I also need to have a vision of the future that I can feel really excited about, that has me jumping out of bed in the morning, and I just feel so excited to work really hard and to put a lot of effort in because I'm excited about where I'm going. And I lost all that excitement because all I could see was I'm just going for more of the same business. And like I said, for some people that would be a dream business. I could have gone, this is amazing. I've got this system, I've got these 20 people a year, I've got this 150,000 turnover, I've got some part-time people who support me in the business. I could just keep on like this for years to come, and it's amazing. And this had sort of been dawning on me for a little while. And at the end of 2016, I'd actually made the decision a little while before, but it was a really courageous decision for me to make. I just stopped running that 12-month program. I ran the online course last year, I ran the one-day live event, and I didn't offer 12-month mentoring. So in one decision, over the course of one weekend, I slashed off 100,000 off my business revenue in one hit. And I went back to square one, and I knew what I was doing. Now, obviously it's not completely square one because I had assets. I had an online program that people love. I had literally hundreds, over 400 people have gone through that program. I had over 400 sort of raving fans who, and a really good reputation in the marketplace. So I wasn't starting from complete scratch. But in my mind, I was saying to myself, the only way that I can create the business I really want is if I stop doing what I'm doing now and I'm willing to go back to square one. And it wasn't easy for that old ego because the part of me that had developed this ego and had become successful, I'd moved back to London, I was renting a house, I was having quite a nice lifestyle really. And that decision to reduce the business, it meant I had to get rid of some of the people who were helping me. I reduced my team right down. I actually decided I moved into a much cheaper place to live. I just went right back to, I know the business I want to run, and I am finally going to go and run that business. And this year, first of all, I took some time off. I think I'd become really very tired and burned out by running a business that I wasn't fully passionate about. And I took sort of Jan, Feb, March. I didn't do a lot. I was running the business, I was delivering to my clients, but really I was getting my energy back. And I thought that the reason that I was stopping running that bigger program was because I wanted to get the online course out to more and more and more people. But what was really interesting is as soon as I created the space and as soon as I'd rested, something else came in for me, an even bigger vision that I'm even more excited about, something I'm going to be launching in 2018. And for the first time, it feels like it's the absolute right thing for me. And I am so excited about my work. I feel like I'm working more hours than ever before. I'm waking up at 5:30 in the morning because I've got things I need to get done. My friends are all really concerned about me. They're talking to me about work-life balance. But I'm just so excited about what I'm working on, and I know that there's going to be plenty of time for work-life balance when it's set up. And actually, all I've ever wanted is a business that I'm crazy in love with, and there's not, for me, this concept. I remember there was a quote I saw Richard Branson make once, and I can't even remember exactly what it was, but something like, work is play and play is work, as in, if you're doing what you love, there actually isn't any difference. You can't separate. You wouldn't say, well, that's my work and that's my life, because for me, it is all one. And I guess, this is, and so I'm starting over, and And along with this has been a lot of other things for me about becoming more authentic in the way that I do business, because I've always taught how to sell and market with authenticity. And I feel that I've always been quite authentic in my business myself in terms of the way that who I am. So when you come and join me in my programs and you turn up on a call with me, you get me. You know, I'm not pretending to be some guru, or I'm not pretending to be anything other than who I am or have the life that I have. So in many respects, I've been very authentic, but in other ways I haven't, because what happened was I was following these business mentors stroke gurus, and I got this idea into my head about what I'm supposed to be like if I have a successful business. And this involved things like wearing smart dresses for speaking engagements. I have got an entire wardrobe of blue shift dresses in various different shades. And I used to wear these dresses, and I don't wear dresses. Like, I don't, in my entire life, apart from when I started running a business, I never wear dresses. I wear jeans, and if it's the summer, I wear Birkenstock sandals and short skirts, and that's it. And I'm not a shift dress sort of a girl. And I started to realize last summer just how much of, I'd created this successful business, but I'd somehow lost myself in the process. And when Nick asked me to speak here, I asked him, I said, would it be all right if I wore jeans? Because I said, I'm coming to talk about being authentic in business, and I'm just so tired of needing to dress up as somebody that I'm not. And that actually if somebody wants to work with me, or they value my experience and they value my knowledge, do they really care that my hair is blow-dried in a smart bob, or that I'm wearing a blue shift dress? No, they don't. It's what's in my head that people are interested in, how I can help them. So despite that story, I actually have no regrets at all. I think one of the things about being in business is it's a journey. And you just have to start on the journey. And the truth is that if I had sat down at the beginning of 2011 and said, I don't know what my niche is going to be, and I don't know what sort of programs I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to work one-to-one or in a group, and I don't know what sort of business model I'm going to follow. So I'm just going to sit here until I figure it all out. There is no way I would be doing what I'm doing today. So I got started with no idea what I was going to specialize in. And over a sort of 12-month journey, I learned what I loved doing and I learned what I didn't love doing. And it turned out in the end, after this very convoluted journey where I tried lots of different things, Nick will remember I had about 5 different websites in my first year in business. I tried to build them all myself. It was such a waste of my time and energy. It was no wonder I wasn't doing more in the business. But if I'd done that, I wouldn't have got to where I am today. And so when I look back at the last 5 years, I don't have any regrets about what I've done, because what I see I've had the most incredible 5-year apprenticeship for what it is I'm really here to do. I've grown in confidence. I've really learned how to work with my clients. I've developed so much knowledge and expertise. I was an expert in sales when I started my business. I'm now an expert in marketing as well. I'm so much more skilled at being able to help my clients get results. I've made a ton of business mistakes. I'd need another hour after this if I was going to share with you some of the business mistakes I've made. If you would almost frighten you off from going into business at all. But this is one of the things we do in business. You have to take a risk. If you don't want to take a risk, stay in a job. Part of being in a business is a risk. Yes, I'm going to start out in business. I'm going to take this leap. I don't know where the first clients are coming from. Oh, now I realize I don't know where the first clients are coming from, so I'm going to have to pay for some business education or some coaching or some mentoring. And that feels like a risk because I still don't know where the clients are coming from. And then you get the first few clients, and then it's like, well, now I need a website, and that's going to cost me some money. And everything feels like it's a risk. And it is a risk. But you don't get to reap the benefits if you're not willing to take those risks in the first place. So there is a really large part of being in business that is about courage. And so when I look back at those 5 years, I just see I have used those 5 years to become the person and to learn the lessons that are gonna help me to grow the business that I believe is really the one I should be running. But I didn't know that 5 years ago, so it could have taken me. I could have sat there thinking about it for 2 years, and I just wouldn't have seen it. So if I was going to share messages for you today from where you are, I would say my first message to you would be start. Just start. I've been having conversations with people this week about joining the 8-week online program because it starts next week. And one of the things that has come up quite a lot in these conversations is, Catherine, I'd really love to join your program, but I really think I need a niche or specialism, and I'm really torn because my head says this and my heart says the other. Well, first thing I would say is that I always say, tell me about the heart. Because believe me, it is hard enough to run a business if you're not passionate about, it's hard enough to run a business to begin with. So if you're not passionate about that, then it's so much harder. And if you're running your business with your head, if you've made a decision, oh, I'm going to go and follow this because I can see that's where I'm going to make the most money, but my heart is somewhere else, you're probably going to find you get to the place I did where you're exhausted, you get a bit burnt out by it because you just haven't got the momentum and the passion to keep you going. So my first message there, I'm muddling my messages a bit, my message there is just get started, because it's only by getting started that you can discover what it is you're good at. So when I first started as a coach, one of my very, very first niche was working with women around the age of 40 who were unfulfilled. So guess who I wanted to coach? Me. And it was quite vague, but I was only charging very low prices. I was advertising on Gumtree and in local yoga studios and doing a bit of networking. And I was getting all sorts of clients because a woman around the age of 40 is unfulfilled in all sorts of different ways. It might be her career, it might be her relationships, it could be anything. And what I discovered through that is that actually I don't feel particularly passionate about coaching people about relationships. I also discovered that I am bored to tears coaching someone about their career. Maybe because my background is in recruitment and I'd had many years enough of that. But what I started to find was that it didn't matter why somebody had come to me for coaching. If she ran her own business, I got really excited by that. And very often it was the fact the business wasn't working that was causing some of the stresses in her life. So maybe that relationship strain or the fact that she was depressed and anxious. Actually, if she could get the business working, it could fix a lot of that. But I wouldn't have discovered that if I hadn't been willing to start. Like I wouldn't have discovered the business I have today if I hadn't been willing to start off doing the wrong things. And so my message to you would be just start. You can't correct course if you're not actually moving. So start moving. Don't worry about whether you're going in the right direction because you're going to start getting signs from outside you and from inside you that will help you to direct yourself. Second message, like I said, is follow your heart, not your head. So always when I speak to people about this, oh, well, my heart says this and my head says this, every time I explore the thing about the heart, they say, oh, yeah, but I can't really do that. It won't really work. And then I push and I explore a bit more. And it always turns out that the person I'm speaking to knows exactly what it is they think they should be doing. They know exactly what they want to do. But they've just got all these little voices saying, who do you think you are to do that? And you haven't got enough experience to do that. And what makes you think anybody would buy from you? And what makes you think you could run a business? And this is what I see is that when you find that thing that you're really most called to do, that's when those little voices come up the most strongly, the fear and the imposter syndrome voices. So that is actually a really good sign that you're on the right track if you're getting those voices. And there does need to be a bit of a sanity check, clearly, because if your passion and the thing your heart is calling you to do, for example, is to help single mums on benefits transform their lives by getting back into work, but you've also got an ambition or a need to create a six-figure business, then those two things maybe aren't going to add up. So there is a bit of a sanity check there sometimes where, one of the things I work with people a lot on is now we've tapped into what your heart really wants, how do we take that and adapt that to be something that people want to buy, that is sellable, so that you can still follow your heart but make it work for you in a way that actually you have a business rather than just a hobby. And the other thing I would say, the final message would be to get help. Get help with your businesses. One thing that I know from my own experience is that you just don't know what you don't know. When I started out, like I said, I was staring at what felt like this thick bank of fog. I didn't even believe it was possible to earn money as a coach. I remember I must have been so courageous because there was a coach who was really very successful and I didn't know her at all, but Nick knew her and my best friend was actually having coaching with her and I rang her up and left a message for her and she called me back. She probably thought I was a potential client and I actually rang to ask her how much she was earning as a coach because I needed to find evidence that people were earning money as a coach. I have plenty of that now. I see it all the time at successful coaches. I see my own clients be successful at their businesses. I've created my own business. But what happens is in those early days, you don't know what you don't know. So don't hold back. You know, you've invested in getting your coaching training, you've invested in getting the skills. Now if you are lacking the skills in business, get help with the skills in business. But do be aware of who you're getting the help from. Because you want to make sure that if you are getting training, coaching, mentoring of some sort, that you're getting it from somebody who has created the business that you want to create. Because one of the reasons that I went off down the wrong path was because I didn't have an awareness at that time that there were so many different business models. I just happened to be following certain people or having mentoring people from people who followed a particular model, and I adopted that. And there are a lot of people out there who will teach you how to do what they've done. Now that's fine if what you want to do is what they've done. But what if it's not? So find somebody to be your guide, your mentor, your teacher, who has created the business you want and had success with it, or is somebody who's very versatile, who understands that there are a range of different business models, there are a range of different personalities, lots of different things will influence the type of business model you find, you follow, like where you live. Do you want to be doing more offline? Do you want to be doing more online? Do you want to be working one-to-one? Do you want to be working in groups? There's so many different ways of doing it, and so just have that awareness that there's not just one way of doing it. And if you're ever in a position with a coach or a mentor of any sort, and they say to you, "Do it this way. This is the way to do it," and it doesn't feel right for you, challenge that, because it's quite likely that there is another way, because there's no one way to do things. And sometimes the only way to know is to get the feedback. It's to try something and see if it works. So I can't quite believe this myself, but I believe I have just kept to time. Go figure.